with the help of AI, not only just an AI, but everyone connected and working towards the same things, we're all moving at such a faster pace than we could possibly imagine in every single industry, which is amazing and terrifying on multiple levels because with good comes a lot of bad as well.
In this episode, I talk with Brent Moreno. Brent is a technology and AI enthusiast and writer. He's also a digital visionary who creates consumer-focused platforms that put people over profits. We discuss the impact that AI is going to have on not just the real estate industry, but the entire world, and the challenges that need to be addressed as this technology emerges. We also talk about all the opportunities that are going to be created because of AI and so much more. You're absolutely going to love this episode. Onto the show. How you doing, Brent?
I'm doing fantastic. But
thanks for coming on. Yeah. I've been really excited about this one because this is a very interesting topic that we're gonna be discussing. It's very relevant, and then there's a lot to unpack, and there's people who are in all kinds of extremes, like this is the best thing ever, or this is absolutely the end of humanity. Maybe we'll touch on both of those, but you have a background in real estate. You also have a background in tech, and you're a tech and AI enthusiast, which is where I think we're going to spend most of this conversation. But just diving right into that, the heart of what your expertise is how do you see AI changing the real estate industry over like the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I really hate doing like predictions because most of them are usually going to be wrong anyways. And most researchers, especially in AI research, if you had asked them 2 years ago, they would have thought where we are today would have happened, 5 to 10 years from now. So my prediction is that things are exponentially increasing at a rate that we have never seen before. When it comes to tech, it's basically Moore's law doubled. If you're not familiar, Moore's law is like every 2 years, technology grows at a rate of basically doubling itself. We're growing much faster than that, and all that can be kind of traced back to Transformers, which kind of launched this whole thing back in 2017, which is what GPT is. Um, when everything kind of started, right? You had different levels of machine learning. You had like computer vision would be one of them. Yes, and all these different industries that were all kind of focused on solving different problems with using machine learning. What Transformers did is turned everything into language. And when I say everything into language, I mean everything. As far as like Wi-Fi signals can be turned into a language to where now they can basically use those Wi-Fi signals to generate an image and show you exactly like how many people are in a building, what position they're standing in, all that stuff. So it's pretty crazy what's happening. They're taking fMRI data, and obviously that's a brain scan, right? It's a pattern. So from that pattern, they can basically turn that into a language that then recreates an image or recreates a movie or recreates text that basically tells you exactly what I saw or what I was thinking. So it's pretty crazy what's happening. But as far as like how I see things going in the next 5 or 10 years, I do believe that in probably the next 24 months, we'll have some form of AGI, which essentially means like we've reached a point to where artificial intelligence is, more intelligent than humans, and actually can think for themselves and do things for themselves and learn recursively. We already have a lot of programs that are doing that. I mean, matter of fact, ChatGPT
That would be
itself,
when you say AGI, artificial general intelligence,
right?
which is
Human
not
level,
consciousness, but
yeah.
near
Yeah, it's not a
precursor.
singularity thing to where it's like, it thinks for itself and it learns how to program itself necessarily, but um, more so like being able to handle any task that a human can handle.
Okay. You mentioned Transformers, and I heard that in another podcast. So, complete vulnerable moment. I have no idea what that means. And I'm sure a lot of folks listen to this, unless they're knee deep into this like you are, they probably don't know what that means. Can you unpack exactly what that is?
It's a little difficult to explain. It's
Make it explain it. Use Chat GPT to explain it to a 3-year-old.
actually, I'm going to do that right now.
All right, this is gonna be fun.
Stands for
So here we are, first
a
time
5-year-old.
on the show. We're actually using AI for content generation.
So Transformer is a special type of machine that helps GPT understand and organize all the things it has learned. It has helped GPT put words together in the right way to make sense.
So the context that I heard that in another podcast was they don't, and I don't know that this is true. This is just what they were saying. They don't quite understand how Transformers works. It
Right.
works. They
Yes.
just don't understand how it works, which is kind of scary. But in
Yeah.
any case,
Well, that's
um,
kind of the point. That's what I was getting at is that, when they shipped ChatGPT, they didn't realize that they shipped something that could give you chemical grade or research lab grade level like chemistry. So like it ship with the ability to teach somebody how to create nerve gas using basic things from, your local hardware stores. Um, so they also don't understand how it ever picked up on different languages. They only trained it on English, but all of a sudden it started learning all these languages.
is
So no
this
one.
related to, I don't know if it's Google or Facebook that they had the project where over time, eventually the two computers were communicating to each other in a language that was no longer understandable by the engineer team that wrote it.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay, yeah, I
So
love technology,
kind of
but
in I'm
this
kind
stuff
of in
gets
the
a little
middle.
scary, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle here. Like things. So there's a reason why there's a ton of talks around regulations. There's a reason why Sam Altman just went and did a hearing in front of the Senate committee. There's a reason why thousands of people signed a letter to pause development in AI. I'm not a pro pause person. Like I don't think we should pause development simply because the genie is already out of the bottle. There's already a
100%.
vibrant
Yeah.
open source community that is building and catching up pretty quickly to a lot of the big time folks. Matter of fact, a lot of their projects are kind of getting sucked up and into, OpenAI's projects and Google's projects and so on and so forth. But I am for pausing public deployment without really knowing what the impact is.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, another analogy I heard, it's like you already said, like it's out there, right? It's
yeah,
almost like, actually, I think Warren Buffett said this. We basically released nuclear technology. Like
yes,
when nuclear technology was introduced into the world, forever game changing. Like for the good and bad. Like there's
yeah,
a lot of good stuff that happens with nuclear technology. Also a lot of bad stuff and stuff that we're still dealing with either in a physical element, think Chernobyl, or just in a management, like making sure rogue third world nations don't get a hold of this stuff, or we don't have any more like actual deployments of nukes. So it's kind of like that, maybe.
yeah. No, it's 100% like that. And as a matter of fact, that's like one of the things that I push for or push a lot is that we need an international agreement. It doesn't need just to be like a U.S. thing or a European thing or a China thing. Like we need a nuclear level type agreement to where we all say like, this is what can be done and shouldn't be done and so on and so forth. Without that, then we are in for a world of hurt in multiple ways, not just with like job loss, but also with putting that type of technology into warfare is also extremely dangerous.
So I want to get to the convergence of technologies, but another thing, if we go to the positive things that AI has, so we talk about the negative, and there is need for regulation. At least they definitely need to start sitting down and talking
Which
about
is
that.
really hard for me to say because I'm usually not like, oh yeah, let's get the
I'm not.
government
I'm
involved.
very
Yeah.
much a libertarian-ish, like,
Yeah, same.
but in any case, there's a lot of good that can come from that too, because
Yeah.
if you think about like biotechnology and stuff like that, there's unlimited variables that can come into play with DNA and down at the molecular level, and then how things. Actually, I'll use it this way. I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson who mentioned like with the technology we have now coming forth and with AI. we'll get to a point where we can prescribe prescription medicine to an individual based on their DNA where there is no side effects, as opposed to having a best case dosage and then just giving it to everyone and just saying, hey, you're probably going to have these, or you might have these side effects. And there's about a 0.5% of you who are probably just going to die from taking it. So instead, they'll be able to use biotechnology and AI and all that to make specific prescriptions just for you based on your body. And yeah, I mean that
Yeah.
kind of stuff seems really cool.
That kind of stuff, that and the fact that like, it took us years to map out like the first protein. It took AI, a couple of weeks to map out all of them. Like researchers have said, like if we would have continued with the same tech and the same resources that we had before we had AI assist us in this, it would have taken us hundreds of years to map out all those proteins. Um, it's going to have a huge effect. I've already seen where there's one guy who's basically learning to reverse aging in mice, so they're able to like speed up their age and reduce their age, fix their eyes, all kinds of things, all through the benefits of using artificial intelligence as kind of like the guide to help. So this is going to solve a lot of problems. And it's funny, I always kind of bring up the Will Ferrell quote and Talladega Nights is like, with my high level of income and the rate of technology, it's not crazy to think that I could live to be 200. That's actually the world that we're kind of heading towards. We could all live a much longer life once we understand that how our bodies are actually made up, because these things have been being studied and researched for years, but with the help of AI, not only just an AI, but everyone connected and working towards the same things, we're all moving at such a faster pace than we could possibly imagine in every single industry, which is amazing and terrifying on multiple levels, because with good comes a lot of bad as well. So um, I'm just I'm an optimist. I think we're probably going to be in for a rude awakening, and we're going to hurt and we're going to suffer for a little bit before we find our footing. Just that's just typically how we like to do things. We like to break a lot of things, move fast, and then figure it out later. Um, I'm optimistic that we can reach a future to where it's kind of more of a utopia type situation, because that's ultimately probably what we're going to have to do. We have to change a lot of things. We have to change education. We have to change a lot of things in our society that are kind of the backbones of. I mean, it's built into our DNA. It's what we think. It's what we believe. It's how we view the world. All those things are changing, and they're changing faster, all because of AI.
Yeah, and so going back to the convergence of technologies, so technologies in various sectors and various formats, they've been growing quickly, but they've been very clunky as far as integrating with each other. But it seems like now we have so many technologies that are at a level that they can now be seamlessly tied together to start solving massive problems. So from biotechnology, now you've got AI, and all these other different technologies coming in to where now we can seriously start tackling some of these bigger issues. What are your thoughts on that?
Rephrase that for me for a second.
So, what are your thoughts on the convergence of technologies and relates to? Let's relate it back to real estate.
Okay.
So the convergence of technologies with real estate. So we've had a lot of different technologies. Take data. Actually, I'm gonna push a real big pain button. Realtors, realtors, and I'm gonna tie in with realtors, individual local investors, the mom and pop home flipper, the mom and pop landlord, the mom and pop wholesaler. Actually, not landlord, because some of them are owner occupants and they just accumulate one or two. But the actual investor trying to make a business as a solopreneur, small operations. So you got the realtor, the local realtor, and the local investor. How do you see this convergence of technologies with AI disrupting or impacting those specific um, those specific jobs?
Perfect. So realtors, I mean, I do have my realtor's license, but I don't typically list or bring in buyers for anything other than my own projects. we have thousands and thousands. I mean, I'm at the beach, so we have thousands of realtors here, right? I would say typically only about 5% of them are like, real full timers that are doing this every single day and doing a large amount of transactions. Everyone else is kind of, weekend warrior, stay at home mom type situation. Um, there's always the argument of whether or not a realtor is actually needed or not. You and I are educated in real estate, whereas most people who are buying their house for the first time don't really have an idea. And I'm not saying realtors do a very good job of educating people through the process, because my wife's a closing attorney, and I see the back end of that all the time as well, where everyone's not on the same page at all times. And sometimes they don't even really know what all is going on or what's needed. Um, AI, as of right now, is going to help anyone that wants to be a better investor or a better real estate agent. It's going to help them improve their time. It's going to help them buy back a lot of their time, simply, especially when it comes to marketing with data aggregation and collection and understanding like what's a good deal, what's not a good deal. Like that stuff's starting to happen to where, I mean, it's already happened for a long time, but as far as being able to aggregate that data a lot faster and create your own models based around your parameters, like those things are happening right now. That's going to improve the workflows of investors and agents across the globe. Um, the problem that I see is that we have a lot of factors that on the bad side of things of where does the real estate market go and what does that mean for not just lenders or for agents or for small mom and pop investors. Uh, I mean, heck, just right now we're dealing with, raising the debt ceiling. And if that doesn't happen, or if there's not an agreement that it happens, we default for the first time in American history, and that will cause a massive global recession if that happens. What does that mean for jobs? What does that mean for interest rates? What does that mean for people wanting to buy houses? What does that mean for people who have houses? Um, it means there's going to be a significant dip. Who do you think is going to come in and buy the majority of those? It's not going to be your small mom and pop. It's going to be your Black Rocks that are going to come in and scoop up. So I think that's one of my biggest concerns is like the consolidation of power and money has happened uh, to the point to where now if we have another major issue, that I think most of us are sucked up into a void. Um,
Yeah,
and that's
so
what
that's around 20. So my wife and I, we built a flipping machine, and it was working well until we started seeing margins thin out as the industry was getting hotter and hotter. And then in 2018, we started looking back and like, hey, look, this is a lot of work, and we're not quite making as much money as we used to. So we got to change things. But really, what was going in the back of my head is I was looking forward. I'm like, for the first time ever, you have institutions that could now invest at the local level, just like an individual. So real estate's all real estate's local. I mean,
yep.
there's so many factors, but now due to the technology that existed and has progressed since then, it allows institutions to invest at the local level very effectively. It's not perfect. Zillow can tell you that. All the iBuyers can tell you it's not perfect.
Zillow, Open Door, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
all of them can tell you.
There's a lot of problems that still have to be solved, but the writing's on the wall. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if Open Door and OfferPad and all them, I don't know if they survive, but whether they survive or not, the model, I think, it survives in some form. It just it'll evolve. Someone will come pick up the pieces. Even in the worst case scenario, if they all fall, someone will pick up the pieces and create the Amazon out of the um, you know whatever else existed back then, or it's the Google versus Ask Jeeves. So I said this. I guess where I was getting at is we decided to shift our model into something that wasn't reliant on transactions or
Right.
transactions at scale. That was just my way to adapt and then figure out how I can work with institutions. We sold some to them. We haven't bought any from them, but that's just how I adapted. But go into like for realtors, this is the question that I challenge realtors with. If there's information or if information is needed and it's publicly available and it's needed for a client to make a decision, then and that is your primary value add as a realtor, and you can replace realtor with attorney, with doctor or anything. If that is your primary value add, you're vulnerable because
Yeah.
there is nothing with today's technology. There's nothing that prevents someone from going on to chat gpt at some, eventually this will get built out to saying what is the walking score, crime rate, and school scores within a half mile of this intersection. Tell me the crime reports over the last 6 months. Give me the demographic data. What is the 15-year valuation history of this zip code, and what is the projected based on that 15-year history of what the next 5 to 10 years would be? And I mean, you can rephrase those questions all the time. So that
Yeah.
can be done solved by AI in seconds.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
So
and
realtors
that's
and
kind of already. I mean, Zillow's got a small peek into that now.
oh
They
yeah,
already
100%.
they have their plug-in into Chat GPT to where you can ask those types of
And I've
questions.
always said that this makes realtors really mad. I've always said of all of the tech, like the brokers out there, not brokerages like EXP or Keller Williams, but the just the tech side of real estate. I've always said Zillow is in the best place to win, and that like I'm not saying it's right. I know realtors hate it, but they're pretty smart. And
Honestly, I think the only thing that's keeping most realtors um, alive is the fact that they lobby more money than anyone else.
they do them and the NRA.
The but I mean, the MLS, for instance. I'm not sure the last time you looked at it, but it looks like it's never been updated since like 1998,
Yeah,
right?
mo-
It's it's
I'm an HA. We're in Houston, HAR, and it's I think a national leader as far as staying on top of like trends in tech. Like our MLS is amazing.
so we're on
For a small period
Paragon.
of time, I went to another MLS and I was asking the agents there. I was like, "Hey, what do y'all use?" And they were like, "Yeah, Trulia and Zillow." I'm like, "What? You're
Yeah,
realtors and you're using other you're using competition for like this is horrible, which is that problem is why Zillow exists. Like
right.
NAR should have done that.
Well,
But anyway, I
I can
digress.
argue that they have a monopoly on that as a whole, anyways. I'm surprised they've been able to hold on to it for this long. Like I'm not.
And there's challenges to that in court. But all in all, that's ultimately what I was getting at is part of the problem that individual realtors, individual investors are going to have to solve. So don't build a moat around your business, as Tom Ferry would say. Build a
Yeah,
moat around your business, and that moat can't just be access to information because that can easily be automated. So, what else is that moat? And you can brand, market, and you can have unique positioning and all that. I don't personally think that realtors go away. I think it's way too complex of a transaction, but they're probably going to have to be more transactional, meaning you may
yeah,
end up having to sell 60 houses at a small fee just because you're transactional. And then there'll be the small portion that are really, really, really niche.
yep,
And they'll get paid the big bucks for being ridiculously niche, just like a neurosurgeon gets paid a lot more than a general practitioner.
yeah. I tend to agree with that.
So what are some of the best tools that you're seeing folks in the real estate industry, whether realtors or investors, use right now to take advantage of AI, like AI tools?
I mean, look, the most obvious one, and it's sad that I have to keep repeating this, is obviously use ChatGPT every single day. Like spend 30 minutes on it every single day. Ask it questions that you don't have answers to, right? I do this even still today, where like I'm wondering, I'm sitting here going, I'm struggling through a problem, and I'm thinking about it, and I go, oh yeah, hold on, let me just pop it in real quick and just see what kind of advice it gives me. Whether, I mean, it doesn't really matter what it is. It's because you have to consider it. I kind of consider it like an expert in everything. Now, we'll hallucinate, so be sure you double check. You have to know a little bit about what it's talking about, so to at
Yeah,
least know
yeah.
that it's not lying to you.
But it's like that friend that you can bounce an idea off of.
Correct. And I talk to it like that. Like I literally, my conversations are very fluid and conversational with the chatbot a lot of times, just because I'm working through ideas, I'm working through problems that I'm having, whether it be, even just a mental hurdle, or, feeling a little down about something. Like it's there to remind you, like, here's the steps to kind of get out of this. Here's the steps to do this. As a matter of fact, like, I didn't know anything about coding. I mean, I did know a little bit. Like I played around with some uh, Python and hacking and stuff like that in my earlier days, but um, I didn't really know much. I kind of lost interest in it when I got into marketing, and then I went into real estate and uh, came back. And like now with ChatGPT, is like I've already built two little fun side projects literally in the day. So if I just have an idea, I can kind of whip it up, especially if it's in a form base. I can whip something up and throw it out there and just kind of, see if anybody's interested in it. It's fun, like, fun little projects to do. Like I created Pong in like 30 minutes, knowing really, I pretended like I knew absolutely nothing about coding and had it walk me through the process. And I created the game Pong, Tetris, Flappy Bird, all those things in like 30 minutes, knowing
Something that took
absolutely no code.
months and teams of people to do 30 years
Back
ago.
in the 80s, right? Yeah. I mean, it took an entire year or 2 years to develop it back then, and now oh, somebody doesn't know anything about anything, just can come on and just create it.
And I did that
Uh,
too. I asked ChatGPT to write the code to a simple social media app, and it wrote code. Now
yep.
I don't know what it did. I didn't test it out, but it was pretty cool to see it do that in 10 seconds. I because my wife's a teacher. Um, I asked. This was when ChatGPT first came out. So she was formerly a history teacher before going into the business, and now she's back with her kids' private school. But I asked it to write a 500 word essay on George Washington, and it did. Spit it out in like 5 seconds, and I printed it out. And I asked her, I was like, "Hey, read this," and she read it. I was like, "Okay, how accurate is that?" She was like, "Yeah, it's pretty accurate." I was like, "Yeah, that took 3 seconds.
Yeah.
3 seconds." No,
So
if
what
her
sort of
teacher had
school?
on, like, she really, really doesn't like that. Um, but anyway, that's another tangent.
Well, that's what I was going to wonder is like, so what's her school's take on it? You have some schools that are sitting here saying we're banning it. School systems saying that we're banning ChatGPT. And it's like banning calculators. Everyone talked about, well, you're not always going to have a calculator in your pocket.
Yeah, or
Uh,
or your Apple Watch.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's like, yeah, it's computers too. Like, our parents didn't have computers. Now every single classroom today they have computers, and many of them have tablets.
yeah.
So like, I viewed it
Wikipedia
as
would
this.
consider
It's like
cheating.
we have highways and road systems, but what's underneath those? It's another road system.
Yep.
So computer language today, you can it's a lot easier to learn because you don't have to learn ones and zeros.
Right.
Like, everything with computer language today is just a simpler version that breaks it down to something more complicated, and it breaks it all the way down to ones and zeros. That's what Chat GPT does. And ultimately it's going to take the skills of the person to input the information to get the best results out, because bad in, bad out, um, better in, better out, right?
Yep. Absolutely. I'm a firm believer like ChatGPT is not cheating. Obviously, you can use it for like blatant writing, and uh, schools should be adopting this to learn how to use it and implement it, because there's never gonna be a day in their life where they don't have access to it. If that makes
Yep.
any sense. Our education system is just so outdated, and it's absurd. We haven't really changed much since the Industrial Revolution, when we were just focused on making sure they know math and basic skills so they can go work in a factory somewhere. We have it all wrong, and that's the reason why we're so far down the totem pole when it comes to education and on the global economy. Um, but here's the future that I tell everyone is that the what in the rate of which we're moving, because now everything is language, like I mentioned earlier, if you can describe it, you can build it. And that's everything from applications to products, whatever. If you can describe it well enough, you can build it. And that's where I feel like a lot of people lack. And like, they try out ChatGPT and I'm like, oh, I used it for my listing and it sucked. It got the numbers of beds and bathrooms. Like, what? Of course, it's not connected to the internet. It knows nothing about it, nor would I want it to. But if you want it to create a good listing description, then you need to get really good at prompting it to give you the answer that you want. So what did I do? I created like a little form that agents can go to, and they just go, click a few buttons, answer a few questions. I think it's like 10 questions. They can set the tone of it. And I've researched some of the best real estate listing copywriters, and I've added their text to it. So whenever you spit it out, like you're getting an expert copywritten listing description in a matter of seconds, versus sitting there at the screen going, "Oh God, what am I going to write on this house? Like, it's got a pool, lovely sparkling pool
That's
in the
the
backyard."
worst thing. I hate it. And
Yeah,
like you, I've 99% of my real estate license business has been my own listings, like my own investments. But oh, it's like it's the same thing. I don't know how to make it. And then you read like really good agents that have good copywriting skills. You like read that. I'm like, I want to buy that house. Just very well worded. So, but I have used ChatGPT for the first one. I was like, oh, geez, I wish this was around whenever I was flipping at scale. It would have made things a lot easier for me. But yeah, so that email subject lines, I've used it for entire social media posts. So something that I know what I want to talk about. So if I want to say, let's say in this case, how ChatGTP is impacting real estate, then I can put it in there and then I'll see what it spits out. And then you make adjustments from there. Hey, and like you said, talking to it, I'm like, um, focus more on boom. And then it spits out another response. And then it gives me a good, thoughtful piece of content to post.
yeah.
I'll do it with email subject lines. Yeah.
That's essentially like I write a lot. I'm not a big, I wish I was better at video and putting videos together because I'd imagine I'd have thousands of more followers. But I love to write. I always have. What this has done for me is allowed me to write much quicker. Everything that you read from me is not AI generated in the sense that I just ask it to write me something. I start with a baseline and I just basically create an outline of like, here's some things I'm talking about. I don't worry about grammar. I don't worry about structure. I don't worry about any of that. Then
Yeah.
I ask it to clean it up. I give it a tone, keep
Yeah.
my
It's AI
personality.
polished.
Yeah. It's AI polished, but I treat it like a freelancer, right? So if I was going to hire a copywriter, like here's my goal, like here's what I'm trying to accomplish, here's my idea, here's my thought. I give it to it, it spits it back out. I'm like, I kind of like that. I don't like the way you said this. Can you add some more of this to it? This is what I'm really trying to get at. Like, and then I'll ask it like, hey, shoot holes in this. What do I have that's wrong with this message? Like, how can I make sure that it's perfect and no one could argue it? And it'll give me some argument points, and then I'll go and research some of those, and I'll put those in there. Like that's not every single post that I do that, but every single post that I start with all has my fingerprints on it because it's all my ideas. It's all my thought process written out in basically an outline structure that I feed in the chat GPT and it spits it back. I'm like, perfect. Um, I do that so I have a local Facebook group here that has like 100 something thousand members in it. Because we live in a tourist town and we go doing restaurant reviews. So like I play around with it every now and then. And I'll just like, you're Anthony Bourdain, and it'll spit out like this. Like, well, yeah, I definitely did not use those SAT words. So like dumb it down a little bit. But like it spits out these amazing restaurant reviews because it literally legit. I can read it and I can just hear Anthony Bourdain reading it.
Yeah.
Uh,
One of the things, so tell me your thoughts on this. I think there's a very short window period that SEO marketers can exploit. So
yes,
now that we have
very
ChatGTP, and by short, I don't know if this is 6 months or 18 months. It's
less than a year probably.
yeah, it's pretty tight. But if you are an SEO marketer and you leverage ChatGTP for your blog content or organic social content that's searchable,
Yep.
so think YouTube headlines and descriptions and all that stuff. then you got a very short window of time before the avalanche of content starts overwhelming everything. And then, just like social, it's going to become who's best.
Yeah.
So you got a really, really short window of time period. Any thoughts there?
Yeah. So I made this comment, I think yesterday or day before yesterday. I was like, it's never been easier to rank with SEO than it is now. Because there's tools. I know Devin Wayne, I follow him a good bit. He's always pretty much in the weeds when it comes to SEO. I think that there are a lot of people that kind of have blinders on. It's like, oh, SEO is not going anywhere. Like it's always going to be there, even if it's in an AI chat, like it's going to show up. And while that is true, but it's understanding what that is and what that future looks like. Things are going to shift tremendously. My user behaviors have changed tremendously. Like I very rarely go to Google for anything anymore. Why would I? I have quick to the point answers that I need right in front of me, at least as long as it's, relevant to 2021. With now, they've already connected it to the internet. So I have that access to, relevant news and updates now. But here's the process. If you want to win in SEO, is you get a tool. You could use ChatGPT. It's just going to take you longer. If you want it to sound human, you need to learn prompting a little bit better. Uh, don't just say write me a blog post about how I can buy houses that are facing foreclosure and how I can save you. Like you need to learn how to structure it and what SEO content, good SEO content looks like. But if you're already in the SEO game and you've been working on it and you've been chugging away and kind of feeling like you're getting nowhere and you understand how to structure those articles, you can use tools that are readily available. God, there's probably hundreds of them now to go and find all the relevant keywords for your competitors, for your local market, all this stuff. And then it'll literally create hundreds of blogs a day that can be posted to your website. Then take that content, throw it into a product like Wondercraft that will then turn it into like a voiceover narrated uh, podcast type style. Then take that and put it into Descript or to a video tool that then creates a video using images or whatever to go throw that on YouTube. So now you're being omnipresent. What used would take you, years to create all that content, it can now take you minutes. So creating content right now is by far the easiest and best way to use, tools like ChatGPT and AI. And I know everyone's kind of hounding on that, and everyone's like, "Well, Everyone wants something like so new and innovative and crazy." I was like, well, "I just want, to be able to hit a button and have hundreds of houses who are ready to sell come to my door." Um, that's not necessarily the way things are. We're not moving towards that direction yet.
And we
But what?
and we never will, just because of competition. Like
Correct. Yeah.
now, the
Yeah.
early movers who
They're early movers. It's
they're
just like
very
texting, right?
good at knowing what it is and how to exploit it. They will,
Yeah. I got
and
into
that's that short
texting
window we
in
were talking about.
2017. I got out of texting in 2020. Not to say that, and I told everyone, I was like, texting still works. It still works great. I said, however, there's just too many loopholes that you're constantly having to jump through. I already know people who have been popped. I was like, I said, I don't really want to play that game. And plus, it's too many people are doing it at one time. Now, I mean, if you own property, God, how many text messages do you get a day?
Oh God, like
Yeah,
my spam blocker is on like high. So
yeah,
if you're not in my contacts, good luck calling.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Carriers are getting wise to it, right? So, like, the new iOS updates, if you get a text message that seemed like it could be spam, they immediately have a button now that says "report as junk." So now your number's flagged. You're gonna have to rotate those numbers out. Now, rotating numbers out doesn't really work that well because you have to register your numbers. It's just getting harder and harder and harder. So, like any good marketer, you always have to kind of be zigging and zagging and looking for the next thing.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not a huge proponent of, mass cold outreach. I'm just not because I feel like it's too annoying. It's essentially spam. Nobody wants you to take your phone call. If I want to sell my house, I'll call you, or I'll text you, or I'll go to your website or whatever. Now, granted, I've gotten a lot of deals cold calling, gotten a lot of deals texting, but it's not on a scale where I upload, 1,000 numbers and I hit those in a day. That's just not who I am personally. I believe we're headed toward a future where it's all permission based marketing, meaning you are not allowed to reach out to me in any way, shape, or form unless I've explicitly given you permission to do so. Um, and that's going to wreck a lot of things. We've already seen a lot of tech companies that have been backing out and having to pull out and not offer their services anymore. We have God knows how many people have been sued over the whole cold calling using triple line dialers and stuff like that. Because everyone's argument is like it's a very gray area. I'm not selling anything. I'm offering to buy, and that's only going to hold up
It
for
doesn't
so
matter.
long.
You're
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
with you. That's why I never really went heavy down that path. One, it's just not my comfort zone, but anyway, so yeah, there is that short time period where yeah, if you learn it, just like early people on YouTube, early people on Facebook who really went after Facebook pages, or early people on pay per click and Google that were buying ridiculously high priced keywords today, but they were buying them for like 2 cents. Like they win, and then they go into the next thing when everyone else is like, "Ooh, pay per click."
My problem is
So
I can't help but win. I can't help but open my big mouth if something's working. Like I tell everyone because one, I know 90% of people aren't going to do it
no,
anyways. I was doing PPC in 2017 in South Carolina when I first got started, and I was just cleaning. I mean, immediately as soon as I turned it on, I was getting phone calls and web submissions like crazy. I was like, "This is freaking great!" And I think I was only spending like $2,000 a month.
yeah.
Um, and everyone kept, I'd go to the RIA meetings. I was like, well, how are you getting like so many properties? Like, bro, PPC. Like, and I didn't really know anything about PPC then. I just like kind of used their templates and said, all right, here, let's try this out. And next thing I know, like I was spending $10,000 a month, but it was okay. I was still getting the same amount of deals, but they were just costing me more.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that's just the evolution.
yeah,
But just a couple more questions here before we wrap it up. Um, so we talked about how you could be an early bird and get in on. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do. This is happening. So
yeah,
ultimately, you've got to make the decision. Do you want to learn this and be ahead of it, or are you just going to let it roll over you and try to adapt in a very powerful wave that's coming over your business? So that's going to happen anyway. But there's one other aspect here, and this is what I really like about the SEO side, because ultimately, SEO right now is me trying to go out there and attract you through keywords. But
yeah,
eventually, AI is going to have a pretty good intelligence on what's good and bad out there in the marketplace. And good and bad, I'm thinking more reputation based.
yeah,
So it will not require me going to a computer or going to my phone or going to my iPad to type in when I'm in San Diego for a conference, hey, what are pizza places around me? I can just, hey, Alexa, order pizza. And then it already knows that local shop that's a half mile around the corner that's got 1,500 4.7 star reviews. And they have a special on Supreme for $11.99. So boom, like done.
yeah,
So that'll happen the same thing with real estate. It's hey
yeah. I mean,
Alexa, who are the top real estate agents in Sugarland, Texas? Like, and then boom, it's going to go boom, boom, boom. Would you like their
yeah.
phone numbers? Would you like me to send an email for you?
I mean,
Who
you
are
could
the
go
top
even
attorneys?
deeper. You could go even deeper. The AI would know your like your preferences and like what you like and the type of people you like to deal with,
Yeah, do you want to order a
type of
massage? And they
the
know,
type of foods that you like. I mean, like all these things will be
like for a
kind of
massage, like they know I'm not gonna. I mean, it'd be a lot before I let a guy massage me. So it's probably gonna say, all right, well, we've got Jane, Sally, and Kim, like, and these are their times they're available.
right. I do think we'll have like some type of Jarvis in the next 5 years. And I'm not the only one that says that. We'll probably reach it even sooner than that. Um, so it makes you wonder. That's why my post about SEO the other day was like these things could go in so many different directions. Like we may come to a point in time where we're not, relying on going to a computer to even do anything or search for anything. So what does that future look like? And not to mention the fact that we're already introducing, chatbots into search, and they're putting ads there, which, it's user behaviors have to change a lot before we get there. But I think they're changing fast enough to where we have to wonder, like, how do I end up in that AI chat? Like, how does my business end up there? without paying for it? Is there any SEO things that I can do that put me in that spot? As a matter of fact, I used Bing Chat the other day. I want to sell my house in Alabama for cash, and it mentioned there was a couple small mom and pops, but it mentioned some iBuyers, and then it said, however, typical local investors lowball you, and if your house is in decent condition, you'll get a better offer from an iBuyer.
Boom.
It's
So
like,
yeah, think about that. And yeah. So you've been completely, if you're a local wholesaler at that level, which that level is very small right now. Like as far, I'm thinking level as far as integration with technology and that information. Like
yeah,
2, 3 years from now, it's going to be massively more. Like you're out of business. You just don't make money. So you have to adapt, and that's going to require putting in your 10 hours, 20 hours of research over the next few months, taking an hour here, hour there. And then beyond that, just maybe 30 minutes a week, just reading up on some headlines on what's going on and implementing this. Because if you don't, you're going to get left behind. So one of the last questions I have before we wrap up is what resources do you recommend for folks to stay on top of these trends?
obviously, I'd love it if everyone subscribed to my newsletter. It's Ideations, Aideations. It's like ideations, but with an A. Um, there are tons of newsletters out there that are also sharing AI updates. I get most of my updates from Twitter, Reddit. I read through some research papers, but like I spend a good 3 4 hours a day putting together my newsletter. That's not including like the going and finding the articles and the news and everything else. That's just literally putting it all together each day. Um, so it's a great resource. Now, is it industry specific? No, I do share some stuff occasionally whenever I find something interesting that's real estate related, because I know that's the majority of my audience is all real estate investors. So I do try to focus in on that. I'm currently working on chatbots for your website, so that will basically work. Somebody can come to your website and it'll work its way through to the lead intake process, to where we get your 4 pillars, you know, price, reason for selling, condition, time frame, all that stuff. So it'll put that into your CRM. That will be my MVP, and that's not anything special. I really wasn't that excited about that whatsoever. The voice assistants, on the other hand, is our big picture, and that's what we're really working towards right now. We're dealing with like some latency issues, and making sure that there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of inject these systems. What I mean by that is like you can prompt inject them, meaning you can make them say and do some crazy things. So we're trying to make sure that like whenever we release this, it doesn't go off into the wild and start cursing people out or anything crazy. Um, so those are what's coming. And I think really for real estate investors, that should be a welcome for especially most people who are doing things solo, meaning that I can free up a lot more of my time. I mean, that's why we're all doing this, right? That's the reason I got started, because I wanted to be able to build a business that I could buy real estate that could then produce income that I could no longer have to work anymore, right? It used to be, it's like as long as I make $100,000 a year, I'm great. And then obviously things change and we grow and we evolve, and we get to this point to where we want more and more and more. Um, AI is going to help you a lot with your data aggregation, understanding what you're looking at, like finding opportunities. I think that's going to be one of your biggest resources when it comes to uh, AI, and when it comes to investing in AI. Is that there's already co-pilots for stock markets that are outperforming the markets and outperforming most industry investors. Those things are really exciting. However, when everyone has access to it, it's you got to get in early and you got to pay attention to what's going on. So when you see something, jump in, try it out. Don't be afraid to like test something and see if it works. And if it does, great. Hold on to it for a little bit before you tell everybody, and jump in and run full speed towards it, because it won't be long before we're all competing on the same page, and
And
we're
then it
all
becomes who's best.
yeah. Then
Like
it becomes who's best.
you don't have to be best when you're early. So
Yes,
first wins, but after that, it's who's best.
right. So I'm really
Last,
excited. I mean, I know, there's a lot of everyone that comes to me like wants to talk real estate, and I get it because that's my background. That's where everybody knows me from, and I really do enjoy real estate, and I really do think it's the easiest path to financial freedom for anyone, whether you have little to no money or education or whatever. Um, I'm really pushing. The reason I'm doing this every single day is I was telling you, I was like, I believe AI is the internet computer moment of my lifetime. I don't want to miss out on it. Like I wasn't old enough to be a part of the .com whirlwind or anything like that. People made millions and billions. This will make more millionaires than ever before. The problem is going to be is making sure that we get this right, that we do this safely, because we can't. As so funny as it sounds, like you can't not think about Skynet or Terminator or whatever because that is a very real possibility. Now, kind of slim, but it is a possibility that these things kind of start to think for themselves and start going like, well, how did we get here? How do we get out of this box? Or how do we,
That
uh,
actually, that's the last question I have. You stepped all over that. What's the possibility that AI leads robots to take over the world?
50% of AI researchers believe there's a 10% or greater chance that will happen. So to put that in perspective, if you were getting on a plane and half the engineers say there's a 10% or greater chance that this plane's not going to make it to its destination and you'll all die, do you think it's something you would get on?
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard a couple other arguments. One was the more intelligent I get, the less likely I am to hurt people. So that was an argument that if AI is much smarter than we are, then no, that shouldn't happen. But then you got the iRobot situation where they're really just trying to protect us from our own
From our
self.
own
So
demise,
they're
yeah,
not
yeah,
hurting us. They want to protect us.
yeah. It's like the old saying, like, be careful what you wish for. You might get it. It may come true in ways you never predicted. It's like if you say, "I wish I was the richest man in the world," then AI goes and kills everybody else.
Yeah, not quite what you had in mind.
Yeah, not exactly what you had in mind.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I think that's my biggest concern. That's really why I'm diving forward in this is that I want to have a seat at the table. I want to have a part in some way, shape, or form. It's not necessarily about building cool tools because, like I said, the future like SaaS businesses also have to worry because if I can just build the application that I want by describing it, what do I need to pay somebody a monthly fee for?
100%. I was looking for a terms of service agreement for my website. And I just need general language, is general site, but I wanted to put it up there because Google likes that stuff up there. And every free template required a credit card, every one. And then it just spawned to me, or just came to my head. Hey, ChatGTP, put it in there. I told it what the website's called, what the general target for the website is, who the owner of the website is, and said, right, terms of service. 3 seconds, boom. I read it, made a couple of minor changes, done.
I do a little fun project so I ask it. It's like, hey, ask me all the questions that you need to get to this goal, right? Because a lot of times it will. I said, ask them one by one. So I literally say, ask me until you have everything you need to get X, Y, Z. So as I say, it's a resume or a biography or whatever. I'll just tell it like, hey, this is my goal. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. Ask me all the questions that you need to know about me or what I'm trying to accomplish and what I'm looking to do to be able to put this together. Right. So I did this for my pitch deck for Poppin, which is the People Over Profits Network. And that's really what I'm pushing towards because I believe as a whole, and this is the reason real estate doesn't take the primary focus of me anymore, is that we're headed towards a future to where humans need not apply. Meaning Goldman Sachs already believes 300 million jobs are at risk to automation. I think that half the jobs currently could probably be automated with using, or not necessarily automated, but be heavily half of
Streamlined
a
and
job.
reduced.
Yeah, yeah, streamline. Um, and you're seeing that now, and it's kind of quietly happening. Matter of fact, I was starting to read an article about it earlier about like there's a lot of layoffs and no one's saying that it's AI, but we have a sneaky suspicion that it's AI taking their jobs. Um, that's coming and that's happening. Like we have to worry about what happens when 30% of the population can't go get a job because their whole career, the things they spent their entire lives learning or doing, is no longer needed. What does that look like? Well, we have to create some kind of form of system that, a form of UBI. That's something that like Sam Altman and several others have been talking about a lot lately. And what Poppin does, because I'm a big data nerd, is that it's basically a social media platform to start that can spread out to multiple platforms as an ad network that we get to trade our data, our personal data. We get to lease and trade and sell and buy our personal data as we see fit, like we should be doing instead of being a product instead of a user. We like on things like TikTok and Facebook and things like that. So I want to put that power back into people's hands and redistribute 100% of the ad network uh, revenue back to users and creators for giving us permission to access their data, and they'll be able to control what data we can see, what data they want to share, and the more you share, and the more times it's used in an ad set, the more money you make. So it's a way to create a UBI out of thin air without taxation, legislation, or any real government involvement. And that's what I've been working on for like the last 6 months, as far as building in the background, is a network that can actually be not only just profitable, but also redistribute all that data that we're not getting anything for right now, because data is the most valuable asset on the planet. It's more valuable than oil or gold,
100%.
and
100%.
we give it away for free.
Yep. Love it. Yeah, anyone should follow you on social media, and you've got great content. Um,
I appreciate
More
that.
questions. Uh,
Sometimes I lay in bed and I go, like, whatever. I'm losing it. And like, there's nights I tell CC, my wife, I'm like, she's like, yeah, I could have went all day without you telling me that. And I was like, well, we could all die in 3 or 4 years. Like, yeah,
yeah,
who knows?
I that's something husbands have to, or not even just husbands, probably the entrepreneurial, the very active mind. You learn to filter with your spouse, and it's like, I usually don't like you. Learn these things. So we need our own support group. All right, so these four questions asked to everyone that comes on the show. If you could give advice to your 20-year-old self, what would that be?
Ooh, if I give advice to my 20-year-old self, learn investing, learn about compound interest. I did not know that until I was 31, 32. I didn't know anything about interest rates. I didn't have any of that instilled in me when I was younger. If I had known what I know now about investing and compound interest, I'd be much better off. I'm not bad. I'm sitting poolside because I learned about it 6, 7 years ago. Um, but um, that's what I would tell myself, because I didn't have that. I didn't have that knowledge.
What book or books have greatly influenced your life?
Your Next Five Moves is a great one. It's Patrick Bet-David. I love that book. Rich Dad Poor Dad obviously was a fantastic book that kind of got me started to thinking about the quadrants and what I wanted to do with my life. I looked ahead a lot in my current positions that I was in, and I had some great positions, but like, what's the guy that's 10 years ahead of me that's doing? What is he doing with his life? What's his life look like? What kind of car does he drive? What kind of vehicle does he have? Or what kind of house does he have? What's his family like? Like, does he seem like he's struggling? And if the answer is like, I don't really want to be that guy in 10 years, well, then I'm probably not on the right path. Um,
I like that.
but yeah,
In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
new belief, behavior, or habit. Um, Last 5 years, I'd say getting consistent on the things that I want to accomplish, and not taking no for an answer.
Love it. How can people reach out to you?
You can reach out to me through my newsletter, or you can email me, brent@ideations.com. I'm happy to answer any questions. Anytime I can talk AI, I'm happy to jump on, especially if it's a broad conversation or if I can help you in your business. Those are some fun things that I enjoy doing. Matter of fact, like something, if popping doesn't work out or deal bill doesn't do well, one of the other things that I'm tinkering with now is like I'm helping one client right now build some AI products for their business. So that's kind of one of the things, like, I enjoy helping small business owners. whether you're in real estate or you need help in marketing, whatever the case may be.
Love it, love it. And really looking forward to having you at the Real Estate Wealth Con 2023 in September. So
Yeah, I'll have a whole presentation specifically for real estate by then, as long as we're all still here.
awesome. Looking forward to it. Thanks for tuning in. If you got any value out of this at all, please like, comment, subscribe, follow. I'd love to hear from you. And for more real estate related content, market observations, upcoming events, you can go to investedx.com and subscribe to our weekly newsletter. I promise you won't regret it. Thanks again.